Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Old Time Radio, and this is part 3 of the tutorial. Part 1 gave you an overview of what the workflow was going to be like for us to create the sprite sheet. In part 2, we actually went through and did these things to create our sprite sheet, which is right here in TGA format, looking beautiful. Okay, and in this part, we're actually going to apply it to a model. Now, there's two different ways that I'm going to show you how to apply this animated texture. So first, we've got a mesh, and a mesh is it's an editable mesh is the appropriate term for it, and we have it linked to the Aurora base, just a basic Aurora base. And this is the type of model that Neverwinter Nights will display. Now, there's all kinds of different types of models or meshes that you can use. They could be editable poly, blah, 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 but you can't use those. Neverwinter Nights will only display editable meshes, and you should know that by now. Okay, so we're applying this texture to the editable mesh, and as you can see, it shows all of the frames at once. Okay, we, again, as I've mentioned, we use a TXI file, a text file, to tell Neverwinter, hey, I want you to divide this texture up into a certain number of pieces by a certain number of pieces, and I want you to display these images in sequence to give us an animated effect. Okay, and if you have forgotten, this is generally the TXI file that we're going to be using. Procedure type cycle says, hey, when you're dealing with this texture, you're going to be cycling it, so animating it. Here's the number of frames along the X plane, and here's the number of frames along the Y plane, so it knows how many frames to cut it up by. Here's the frames per second, okay, which is the number, obviously, how quickly it's going to play. The blending normal is one of a couple of different ways you can have it set up. There's normal, additive, and I think punch through. And maybe we should actually take a look and see how those affect affect the image. And then decal one, honestly, I forget. Let's just leave it in there. Decal, I believe, will change the way that it is displayed on both sides. It'll make it two-sided. Yeah, I'm sure I got that wrong, but the point is leave that damn thing in. Can't explain why you need it, but you do. Just go ahead and go with that. And then downsample, max, and min, you want to have these to 0. Downsampling obviously is going to degrade the image. In this case, we're dealing with animations. We want it to be nice, okay? Neverwinter Nights will pretty aggressively go after and downsample images that you do not specifically tell it not to. So we want to say, hey, leave that image alone. Just leave it the way it is. Don't you worry about downsampling it at all, okay? And that's just kind of a general overview of this little TXI file. Remember, again, it's just a text file with the same name as the texture that we're applying it to, and you'll see that in just a sec. Okay, so that's the editable mesh with a texture, and we've just used a plane, just a regular old plane, and as you can see, doesn't have anything on the back. And when we view it in Neverwinter, only one side will actually show up. The other side will be completely transparent. So that's something to keep in mind. And then we have the emitter here, okay? And this is also, well, this is attached to a node, a dummy node, okay? And then the dummy node is attached to the Aurora base. I'm trying to switch myself over from just attaching emitters directly to the Aurora base to attaching them to a dummy node. Feel free to experiment. There's no reason why you shouldn't try different combinations of things, especially if for some reason you're doing something one way and it ain't working. Try a couple of different ways. And you can also, of course, search on the old BioWare forums. You can find a huge amount of information. Okay, so we have selected our emitter, and we're going to go take a look at that. We, again, did this a little bit earlier. Key thing here for our purposes is emitter particles. On the emitter particles, the size X and size Y, okay? It's that invisible resolution I was telling you about, that invisible plane I was telling you about. And so in this case, let's drop that down to 2 meters by 2 meters, which is the same as 200 centimeters by 200 centimeters that we use to create this plane. And some of the other settings are I'll try to provide a sample emitter. Obviously, there's some slightly different tweaky things that we use for this, like we only have a birth rate of 1 per second, and we have an infinite life expectancy. Basically, what we're doing is we're setting up an emitter plane. Now, you know, if you're going to be doing particles that are dropping off, like pieces of dust or sparks or something, obviously you're not going to be using this specific combination. This specific combination, along with some of these other settings like align to world Z, punch through, normal, okay? Those are the settings that we need for that plane, okay? Okay, so we just drag and drop. Let's actually do that. So let's show the application of the texture here. So again, we have our red smoke. I'm just gonna grab it, TGA, drag it right over there, let go, and there you go. Look at that. Beautiful, right? Okay, I can't do the same thing for emitters because they are sort of a construct of the Neverwinter engine itself. So what I have to do is select the emitter, and I'm just making sure I have the right name, RDSMK. Okay. And now, since the emitter is selected, I'm going to come here and I'm going to look, where's my texture? Where's my texture? There we go, emitter, texture, or chunk. Okay, so we're going to replace gas chew, which is what it was, with RDSMK, red smoke. Okay, we're making it a two-sided texture. Oh, maybe that thing about decal I said was incorrect. Yeah, just go with it. Anyway, we select this two-sided texture. Good. Texture animation grid X by Y. Wait, okay, this is going to be important. Let's see, my grid is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, well that's my X. And now my Y is 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 6 by 4. Good. How many frames do we want to play? Well, it's 24 frames total. Yeah, let's play 12. So it'll complete an entire cycle after 2 seconds. Okay. And again, I'll provide some demo emitters and planes and stuff like that, but feel free to experiment yourself and don't rely on my examples. Learn how to do this on your own, and you'll be a lot happier with your results. Okay, so now that is selected, I'm going to, or now that that's entered in, we're going to go ahead and select the model base. There's no animations. This is not an animation through space over time kind of animation. This is purely animated textures, so there's no animations there. And then we're going to click, well, I guess we could just click Export Geometry Only. Okay, let's see if there's any errors. Nope, that's really good. And now we're going to, notice that it was, I called the model PLC A01, okay, which is the armoire, my favorite model to use. And now we're going to load up the Neverwinter toolset, and I'll show you a little bit of troubleshooting. Okay. Okay, so hey, notice this is doing fine, the emitter's doing fine, but look, my plane, it's not animating, and it's all in these chunks. All right, I forgot to set my TXI file. Okay, so remember the TXI file controls things, so we come back here to our override. The name of the file is Red Smoke TGA, so I have to make sure that my TXI file is called redsmoke.txi. Okay, so let's do a save as. Okay, so look at that, redsmoke.txi. I'm gonna save that. Okay, I bet I've fixed everything now, right? What? Now everything's gone to hell. What's going on? Well, let's see. We screwed up this one. How did we do that? That emitter was set happily. Oh wait, they're both using the same texture. So what we need to do is we need to take this red smoke and we need to have a separate texture, one for the emitter, one for this, because this TXI file is going to affect both. Okay, so we're just going to copy this. Okay, and we're going to call this red smoke 2, TGA, and we're going to change it on the emitter to red smoke 2. Okay, exporting the geometry again. Now I bet that fixed everything, right? Let's take a look. Okay, well, we fixed the emitter again by giving it a separate image so that the TXI file we created only affects this particular texture because it's named for that particular texture. But look, we've got this crazy crap. What's wrong with this? Why am I seeing double? Well, let's take a look at our TXI file. Okay, got the right name. Oh, look at that. Our num-x and num-y were not properly set. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Num-x is 6, and the num-y is 4. FPS 12. Blending normal. Okay, let's give that a shot. Right-click. Save. Now let's see if we've made a little progress. Yay! Okay, now what we've done is we've troubleshot each one of these. This is something you're probably going to run into, and as you see, they're doing their happy little thing. Looks like, yeah, we set them both to display at 12 frames a second, so that's all good. So again, as you can see, this guy goes away because this is the plane. This is the emitter. Okay, emitter's nice. It's always going to be facing the camera. Okay. And I'm going to wrap this up for this part of the tutorial. Again, we've gone through and applied it to mesh. We've set the properties with the TXI file for both an individual mesh, a plane in this case, and we've also set it on the emitter using the emitter settings themselves. So 2 different ways to achieve the same effect. And by the way, if we wanted to do, as you noticed, I talked about a gazelle, okay, which had a bad frame right about here. Okay, well, how do we fix that? As you know, if you take a look just a little further down, it says first frame and last frame. First frame 0, so it starts off at 0, and then it goes to the last frame. In this case, it would be frame 23. What I did with the gazelle was I just knocked one off the last frame, so it played all, and then once it got to here, it stopped and went right back. Okay, and you can have a lot of fun with this. Now, are you going to likely run into this issue? Probably not. Remember, the chewing gazelle, which had the bad frame there, we actually made that just using the exact same process you saw. And so when it came time for us to make the sprite sheet, we could have just left that gazelle off, or left that frame off, and that bad frame would not be there. But there may be reasons why, for instance, you might want to start the frame for a particular animation 4 in, or 5 in, or 6 in, and only run it for a couple of frames. In this way, you can use the same sprite sheet and get slightly different effects merely by looping certain portions of it. Okay, and again, I'm pointing to the mesh here, but we're really talking about an emitter function. Okay, unfortunately, the TXI files, to the best of my knowledge, do not allow you to do that kind of modification. So here's first frame, last frame here under the emitter, right? They're just, I've looked and I don't see anything, not just in this TXI file, but I'll look through the strings in the source code, and I don't see anything that we could stuff in here that would be read by the TXI file. So maybe that's wrong, but again, it gives you a lot more freedom to use an emitter in most cases because you have these little extra tweaky things. Anyway, okay, thanks for watching.